iPads in kindergarten. The 2019 Teacher's Guide to Technology is here from my friend, Jennifer Gonzalez. Go to coolcatteacher.com/guide and stay tuned for more.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Hello, remarkable teachers, and welcome to Wildcard Wednesday. Today, we're talking about peer review and teaching writing with second grade teacher Jennifer Bergen from Virginia. So, Jennifer, how do you teach writing in your classroom?
This year, my school is developing something new, and it's really exciting because it's not just my school, it's the entire school district. We are all the elementary schools combined embarking on a new writing journey together. And one of the things that's integral to our writing is that the kids are constantly going through the process of actually creating a book. So from start to finish, plan to publishing. And a part of that is peer review. And it's something that I'm really enjoying using with my students. And it's actually lending itself to other parts of the school day as well.
So you're writing a book. Is this going to be an ebook?
Well, the children write books on paper, and then we bind them and we have a class publishing experience. So every quarter, there's a different focus. Our first quarter, the focus was personal narratives. So taking a small moment from their lives and describing it in detail, looking at mentor texts, and then implementing items from mentor texts into their own writing. In this quarter, we're writing nonfiction chapter books. So we're looking at writers like Gail Gibbons and Seymour Simons, and we're implementing strategies that they have into our own work.
Oh, that is fantastic. Now, one thing, you're saying peer review. So could you share those tasks? Because, some teachers just use peer review to find commas and grammar mistakes. And I just want to groan when that happens. And
yes.
I know that you're taking it much further. So describe some of the peer review tasks that you have students doing.
Well, there's a couple of different levels we have for peer review. Some of the earlier experiences that the children had with peer review were exactly that. Have a peer review your work and write some comments. I just wanted the class to get comfortable with each other. I also wanted them to get comfortable going to their peers instead of coming to me. I try to not be the queen of the classroom, even though sometimes it feels that way. I'm trying to empower them to go to each other for answers after they've tried something by themselves. So after a couple of early trials, just being with a peer, we're moving into going to peers for advice, asking if they could look at a peer's work for inspiration, and even going so far as asking peers for some ideas of how they could make their story better, and being brave enough to ask, I know my story isn't there yet. What can we do to bring this to the next level?
And that's so fantastic, because I'm actually working on an update to a piece that I've written for Edutopia about fantastic formative assessment tools. And, self-assessment and peer assessment are two important parts of formative assessment. But, so many people leave that out. What are the problems you have with peer review?
Earlier in the school year, the problem was play. When you put two peers together, if they weren't explicitly taught what to do, they would play. And so we had to do a lot of modeling. And sometimes I would pretend to be a peer. I would emphasize just how serious the nature of peer review is, what a privilege it is to be together. And I talked about how when you work with a peer, it's kind of like a dull pencil getting sharpened. It makes you better. And so the problem of playing has now started to diminish. And I found that my students are foregoing raising their hand to ask me for my advice. They're going to each other and then immediately getting back to work. It's no longer just in writer's workshop. They're doing this in math when they get stuck. I even had two children problem solve how to fix a broken desk leg, and they stacked erasers under it. They didn't need me anymore. They were brainstorming with one another and problem solving together. And that's what I love to see.
Oh, that's incredible, because it's going past writing into all your other subjects. Now, let me ask you this. What's the biggest mistake you've made with implementing peer review, and how did you get past it?
Well, I think early on, for me, peer review was something that happened very infrequently. It was maybe a special day where I told them, this is what we're going to do. We would use our block to peer review. It was isolated. And like any of our subjects, when you're only using them in isolation and not allowing for cross-curricular connections to happen, you're not imitating real life. When I go to the grocery store, I'm doing math and I'm problem solving, I'm planning, and I'm thinking about my culture all at the same time. So now that the children can peer review whenever they need to during the writing block, they have the freedom and the power to get up at any moment. And so peer review will happen for someone every single day in this class. It may not happen for every child every day, but they now have that as a tool and they're utilizing each other in a really powerful way.
Okay, so Jennifer, I want you to flip this around and I want you to pretend like you're teaching all of us teachers. How can we start using this peer review technique in our classroom today? How do we start?
I think it starts off with modeling. You have to show them what the expectations are, what it should look like. And then we also love to do not examples of what it is not. Peer review is not cruel. So there was one of the earlier phases of peer review. We were leaving Post-it notes on people's work. And we talked about the difference between constructive criticism and non-constructive criticism. And we talked about what could we write to help someone become better? What could we write that makes no difference? So saying this paper is not good would not help, but saying your paper needs more detail, now that tells the kid I have to add in more detail. Once you've modeled it, bring it up daily, bring it up frequently, let them know, yes, you have freedom to get out of your desk, go to someone. And I also tell them, find someone who will work well with you. Don't pick someone just because they're a good friend, and don't look for someone that you think will just say your writing is fine. Find someone who you think will really challenge you. And they do. They look for each other. And some of them have preferred partners they go back to over and over again. But some of them seek out diverse people every time.
So we're modeling, we're giving not examples. Can you give me an example of where a writing teacher can put peer review in that is not just grammar or commas or punctuation?
Oh, absolutely. In our first quarter, one of our earliest goals was to be more descriptive. And so I modeled in class. I took one of the children's writing and I was reading it. This girl wrote about an experience where she went to the White House at Christmas and her page was good. She said, I stood in front of the Christmas tree covered in lights. So I reminded them, think about the master, Jane Yolen. That's who we studied at the time. What would Jane Yolen have done? And we talked about how she would make us feel. And so my student started to describe that when she stood in front of this Christmas tree, she felt like the tree was covered in fairy light. So we transformed her sentence and she changed her sentence to, I stood in front of the Christmas tree. It looked like it was covered in fairy light. And then we just kept building. I said, let's not stop. If it's covered in fairy light, what does fairy light do? It glistens, it sparkles, it glows. And so she just kept going deeper and deeper. And her final piece was such a work of art. I don't think she knew that could come out of her.
That's incredible. So teachers, as we've talked about Wildcard Wednesday, there are ways that you have learned from Jennifer today about how you can integrate peer review into your classroom. And it doesn't just have to be writing. It can be other subjects. So get out there and be remarkable and unleash that peer review. Jennifer Gonzalez has released her 2019 Teacher's Guide to Technology with over 200 education technology tools, including tools for assessment, flipped learning, presentations, parent engagement, video engagement, and more. In this guide, you get a simple description, a screenshot of the tool, and a play button that takes you to a video about how the tool works. Learn more at coolcatteacher.com/guide. Now, I am an affiliate for this product, which means I am paid a small percentage of the fee if you purchase it. This is at no additional cost to you, and I only recommend the best products for educators on the 10-Minute Teacher. So, the 2019 Teacher's Guide to Technology. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.